All right, in this video, I am going to repair a tear in my sauna suit. This is a PVC you like, and it's relatively easy to do. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to tape together this tear from the outside using some painter's tape. What I'm doing is I'm putting a glass jar in here that gives me something to kind of work against, and the curved surface will actually make it a little bit easier. So the tape will hold it together, and then I can flip it inside out and then glue it. Kind of just getting it started. You can do this in pieces. In fact, I prefer to kind of do it in pieces. Now this seam actually looks like it came apart, where I have a little bit of seam on both sides. So that means that these actually go together. So I'm going to kind of fold that under and then tape it together like that. Be careful to get wrinkles, because those can end up becoming permanent once you glue the strip down on the inside. If you have a wrinkle, the wrinkle's going to get glued over, so you kind of want to make sure you pull your wrinkles out as you're doing this. Might even have to kind of take this loose just a little bit and kind of stretch. So now that I've got that taped together, I'll flip this inside out. And find the spot that I just taped. I'm going to put my jar back in. And the first thing I'm going to do, I can go ahead and glue this little piece down, the little flap of the seam, to keep the glue off my hands because it will dry your skin out pretty bad if you do it a lot. I'm gonna wear some nitrile gloves. You can also wear latex, but don't do PVC because the glue will just stick to your gloves. The next, I'm gonna use a syringe that has some vinyl cement. I'm using HH66 vinyl cement you can get on Amazon. You can also go to a pool supply store and ask for a pool liner repair kit, and it will come with some vinyl cement. And what I'm gonna do, these syringes with blunt needles, you can get these on Amazon. They're really handy. They're very inexpensive too. I like the 18 gauge needles, which is the green one. It really helps you control how much glue that you're dispensing. I think, there we go. If you leave it out, you'll get kind of some dried up glue on the tip. Well, I did just have it working, but maybe there we go. So I'm going to glue a strip of material over this, but just to get it started, I want to kind of just glue it back together. So between these two pieces of material, as well as under, to kind of glue it down. If you have a brayer, you can pick, or if you don't, you can pick these up at like a craft store, Hobby Lobby, places like that. Michael's, Amazon carries them. Make it really nice for getting all the air bubbles out and getting a really good bond. The amount of pressure that you apply after you put the glue down is really what gives it a very strong bond. If I get glue on one finger, I'll shift to another finger to let it dry. And then I'll try to kind of just rub it off after it's dry, and it'll kind of flake off. Sometimes I use the side of my hands. They work kind of like the roller a bit. It takes a good 30 minutes for the glue to set up. So you have about that much time to continue rolling it, or if something's not right, you can peel it back apart within that time frame. The sooner the better. Next, I'm going to get some material. All right, I've got my material here. I happen to have some of this blue PVC-like material. If you don't, you can always use clear. You could use black, although you might see the black a little bit. Clear is always a good choice for the inside since you're not really gonna see it. And one thing I like about clear is you can always see if there's bubbles or wrinkles. So I'm gonna go with probably, I'll go with about 1/2 inch. Yeah, I think about 1/2 inch will probably be a pretty good strip. So I'm gonna take, I have a cutting wheel. You could use scissors if you like, but the cutting wheel makes it real easy. And then I'm going to take and round the corners on one end to start with. Because corners never really glue down very well. They always end up peeling up after you glue them, so having it rounded will prevent that from happening. So I'm going to put just a little bit of glue just to get it started. And I'm going to put it down here on the very end. And I'm going to kind of straddle my seam. I want this to kind of go on a little bit on both sides of that seam. So it's going to kind of bridge it. Once you get it started, then you can go a little bit longer stretches. Whatever you feel comfortable with, 1 inch to maybe a couple of inches. You don't want to go too far because the glue will start to set up and dry, and then it won't stick real well. You can use a paper towel, especially before you get the feel of how much glue to apply. You can lay a paper towel down when you go to press, and then that way it will catch any of the excess glue that kind of squishes out the sides. I've kind of gotten the hang of how much glue to use, so I'm not doing that. So I always peel it back just a little bit to make sure I don't have a gap in my glue. Just make sure it's kind of an even coating of glue and that there's no gaps in it. We'll roll out all the air bubbles and wrinkles. And what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to let this go past this a little bit to work as a reinforcement. Actually, I'll take and do another patch to kind of create a little crosshair to help reinforce the crotch area. So what I'll do is, since this is a good length and I'll just go ahead and use it all, I'll go ahead and round these corners as well. I'm a little bit worried about this wrinkle here. So, okay, I can kind of push that out. It's on the tape, but I was able to kind of push that flat. I'd rather not have a wrinkle. You want to give this glue about an hour to really dry, set up before it's strong. Put a little bit of glue under this. Here. Since we're going to come across the center of the crotch and to the other side, just to do a little bit of reinforcement. This will actually be incredibly strong once this is dry, because having an overlap glued seam is one of the strongest things. Basically, it's stronger than the material, so you'll never rip the seam again, but you might rip the material itself next to it. So now this seam is basically indestructible. You'll rip the suit before you rip the seam. So you got time, since we're putting it down wet. I mean, another alternative is you can let it set up for a minute on each surface and put it together like contact cement, but then you don't have the nice ability to kind of mold it. I like doing it wet. Lets you kind of get it into all the nooks and crannies, and especially if you're doing anything that's transparent. You really, if you want it to look good, you want to do it wet. The only thing about doing it wet is then you just have to work with it for about a minute while it sets up. I always go back over the places I've already done. I'll even do it some more later once I flip it inside out. Continue to roll it. So I just want to finish up here with, I'll glue this side down. And then do a little bit of a strip across to really give the crotch area a nice reinforcement. Just take this little piece that I had started, and I think I'll do it with the roller. Might as well. Continue it on just a little bit. Well, it looks like it's kind of going curved there, so I'll start down here and do another piece. Do the end to get it anchored. And I'll come down here, move that down. right, so now I got all my reinforcement strips down. After I roll this a little bit, I can turn it right side out, peel my tape off, and then just let this set up, and then it's ready to wear. Wouldn't probably wear it for at least an hour. After an hour, it's pretty strong. I'd say it probably gets up to about 90% strength after about an hour, and then it's probably 100% after about 24 hours. So there you go. That place will probably never rip again. Other places could. You could go ahead and do that everywhere if you want to. I do find that there are generally just the crotch area is the one area on the pants, and then under the armpits on the shirt are really the only areas that really generally tear. So doing everything is kind of a waste, in my opinion. You could go ahead and do this whole seam that goes down, under, and back up. That would probably be worthwhile. And then maybe down the leg, you could go a good 10, 12 inches down each side. But other than that, it's kind of a waste to do anything else from what I've seen that has torn on me. On the shirts, you could go, of course, the armpits, and then down the sides if you wanted to do the full side. Those are places that tear. This tape is really sticky to this these gloves, but I'm actually done with these gloves, so I can go ahead and take them off. Now, if you end up with any sticky residue, which some blue painter's tape will do that, I've noticed. This is the Scotch, they call it light, I guess. And it's there's Scotch original, and then there's like a lighter blue, and it's a little bit better. But if you can't get it off, I have found that you can use Goo Gone to get it off, but you want to immediately, after you get it off with the Goo Gone, you want to use some Dawn and on a dish, a paper towel or a dish rag, and get the Goo Gone off, because that's actually harmful to the material. But what you can try to start with is just some rubbing alcohol. Because it generally will get most of this stuff off. So just have it on a paper towel. And I need to do a little more experimenting with what painter's tape works the best, because I have used some, and actually it looks like I might have to use a little bit of Goo Gone. Yeah, that's taking it off real easy. We just don't want that sticky residue staying on there. That is not desirable. So now that that's gone, oops, that's the wrong cap. Now we want to get the rest of this Goo Gone off. So let me get some Dawn. I have a little bit of Dawn, a little bit of water. And there we go. So now there is a nice clean seam, which we can maybe do a little bit of final rolling on. And just let that sit for a while, and it should work as good as new.